We're in Pont Felin Gat, which is a native Welsh woodland. A lot of ash, oak, some beech and hornbeam, which are probably not native. It's part of the National Botanic Garden of Wales. It's a Wine Nature Reserve. It's 20 acres of woodland, our largest woodland. Actually has a very pretty river, the River Gwynnon flowing through the middle, which is a good habitat for otters.
Okay, and tell us what you've had a problem here, haven't you, with visitors walking through and with the river erosion. Tell us about the problem.
Okay, right. There's been footpaths through Pont Felin Gat for a long time, and the Gardens has had management of this site for about 11 years. All of that time, we've had the problem with the River Gwynnon eroding underneath the footpath. So the footpaths have been getting narrower and narrower and more dangerous. So this has been a problem we've been aware of, but weren't really sure how we were going to correct this, what we could do about it. We could keep cutting the footpath every few years into the bank, but that's not really an answer. That would mean major works with an excavator every few years. So we wanted a green solution. We didn't want a hard landscape. We'd like to do a green solution because it is a nature reserve. We were approached by the Waste Recycling and Action Programme, which I refer to as WRAP from now on. They have a system of grants where they wanted to use compost in some way, and they were looking for novel uses of compost. And one of the technologies is just coming over from America, where they're using membranes to hold back the compost. And in this instance, we're using socks full of the compost, which then we peg into the bank, which we can plant with what native plants we want, and that will then hold the bank up and hold the structure to the bank to prevent further erosion. Now you can see what we've done here. We didn't want to put the compost socks into the water because we were concerned that we may increase the nutrient content in the water by the water running through the compost, might increase the nitrogen level in the water, which then might cause enhanced algal blooms and things in the water. So we didn't want to do that. So we've kept the compost out of the water, and we used a layer of rock along the bottom to deflect the main force of the river. And we've built on top of that a structure with short compost stocks, which we've locked together along the bank, and we then tied those into the bank with anchors. They're known as platypus anchors, and then we've used willow stakes to tie them in further. The idea is that the willow will grow and root through the compost socks. We've had a slight problem with this in that the light levels are rather low for willow here. So they have initially grown and have since failed. So we're now looking at different species, probably something like hazel, to replace those with, and putting hazel plants in, which would grow better in the low light levels here. The work that was done here in the 1980s would have been done by what's known as steel mesh gabions, where these would have been filled with quarried stone, and they're quite a hard landscaping. They've got sharp edges, which for us wouldn't look quite so good. The idea of these is these will green over very quickly and will look like a natural part of the nature reserve. Hopefully within another few years, you won't be able to see the netting in the membrane that's withholding the compost, the actual parts of the socks. The whole lot should look like a natural part of the woodland. Well, we think what's happening with the river, it's creating creating itself a bend as water finds its way, and actually the bend is moving around this bank now. So what we're trying to do is hold the structure of that bend together and stitch the bank in so that the bank doesn't continue to keep collapsing into the river. So what by the roots, the best thing here on this river bank that's holding together are probably tree roots. So if we can get some native trees to take later, like ash trees as well, that will hold the whole bank together, is probably the best long-term answer. Otherwise it can be very difficult if a river decides to cut into the bank. We're trying to fight nature rather than work with it. The other thing we're aware of, that we're bringing a new technology, and we don't want to affect we're a nature reserve as well. So the last thing we want to do is have a negative effect on the environment. So we're measuring what we're doing here. So we're doing plant surveys. We've done a plant survey before the work. We've done one immediately after. And we'll do one into a year's hence after the project, so that we will know what we've achieved and whether we've done any harm to the area. We're also measuring water quality by looking at the invertebrates, the insect larvae in the water, because they're a very good indicator of whether we're increasing the nutrition or having any effect to the water. And so far, the results look quite good. We haven't got any major changes to the water. We've got another measurement of invertebrates to do now in another year's time, which will give us much more definite answers to that.
This is a new technology to Wales. Can you tell me where the technology came from or where else it's been used before?
Okay, we're the membrane and the idea of using compost in a membrane in these long socks came from America. It was run by a company called Filtrex. Now this is actually the first trial of this technology in Wales, and about the fourth in the UK completely. So it's very, very new technology. It's only just been brought in. So we've had to bring the contractor. There's only one contractor in the UK that is licensed to use this technology, which is in Scotland at the moment. So we've had to bring in contractors from Scotland to do the work.